computer. Hey, Lucy.
Hello.
It's really good to see you, of course. Always good to see you. But yeah, I wanted to say thank you so much for joining me for this time, just to go over a few things about coaching in general. This is a space that I wanted to be able to bring to allow other people to get a feel for what it's like to actually have a coaching session, what it's like to work with me as well, and maybe hopefully share some of the insights that you were able to gain in the process and what it was like for you. So thank you again for just being here. I really
My
appreciate your
pleasure.
time. Yeah, absolutely. So in doing that, maybe we can get started on just maybe your overall view of what coaching is in the view of someone who has been a client.
Yeah. So coaching to me is a space that I know that I can come to and just be completely myself, completely bare. And especially with you, I always come to our conversations just knowing that I'm going to be able to like bear all. So that means bringing up all the emotions that I need to bring up, speak about literally anything that's on my mind. And for me, it's also with you specifically, it's knowing that by the end of our time together, I'm going to have like some kind of breakthrough. And every single time it's the case. So whenever I'm going through something, and we have a session coming up, it's like, oh, this is such a godsend. It's a perfect moment because I know that I'm going to be able to like take myself, well, you're going to be able to help me come out of whatever it is that I'm working through. So that's what coaching is to me. It's just that beautiful safety and somewhere I can be vulnerable and completely myself.
I love that. I love that so much. So then, maybe we could talk about some of the things that we actually went over in coaching. Maybe I know that we've been working together for months, but just to see what kind of things that someone can bring to coaching. What were the things that you brought to coaching that you were able to focus on?
Mm. Originally, I came to you with a lot of things around my business. And what came out of our conversations is just we went everywhere. So for me to be able to pinpoint what it is that you've done specifically for me in one area is really difficult. So came with how do I grow my business? How do I become the best version of myself for that business? But then what ended up happening is we dip into relationships, we dip into health, or we dip into finances, whatever it is, because to me, everything is always linked to whatever someone initially comes to. So yeah, there's so many aspects of my life that have quite literally been transformed because of working with you.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's started one place and then just ended up going in all these beautiful aspects, which at the end of the day is like who I am as a person. It's more
Right.
complete.
It's all inclusive. Yeah. And I think the work that I do really is to make sure that we're coming back to the authentic version of who you are, right? It's about focusing on your own personal values, how you want to show up in the world, and is it in alignment, right, with the vision that you have for your life and coming to actually having a vision in the first place, right, for our lives. But, like you said, when we were working on our coaching together, to be able to use the things that you bring in each session that really come back to and strengthen this goal that you have in the for your outcome in general, right? So using every single thing that you're going through or that you're experiencing, bringing it to the session, and then being able to see, okay, how can we make sure that we're, getting the experience that we need to have the perspective in mind to be able to make sure that we're using that perspective with what we want to be working on for our goal, right? It's like bring it back into alignment. So I think, thank you for sharing that. And I love that you were able to find all of these different ways to be able to, make it whole, right, for yourself, to make sure that you're getting to that end goal, but yet, all of these things that are helpful in the process.
Yeah,
So then, yeah, go
I'd
ahead.
say I'd say my looking back now on our time together, I came with like, okay, how do I achieve these goals? How do I become more productive? Like all this kind of stuff. But I think what it is ultimately now being able to look back is, how can I just remind myself of who I am? So that authenticity piece. And you have such a beautiful way every single time of reminding me of like something that I said, even if it was like 6 months ago. It's like, no, Lucy, but do you remember when you were saying this? This is who you are. And every single time I was like, oh, I've completely forgotten about that. But yes, that is my true essence. So you have that ability to, it's almost like you have this like sheet in your mind of who your client is at their essence, right? And it's like you're constantly reminding me of that. It's like, no, you're saying all these things, but this is who you are. This is what you want to do. These are your dreams.
Right.
And it's like constantly bringing me back to that, for that alignment piece. So yeah,
Yeah.
you do
Yes.
that really beautifully.
Thank you so much. And yeah, and I feel like, based on the fact that, we're able to spend so much time, each week working together, I can get a very clear picture of who you are, through the questions, through what you're sharing, and all of the things that we speak of. It's really creating this amazing, beautiful picture of who the client is, what it is they truly want. And yes, being able to remind them of that, throughout the session, each time, is being able to bring them back to their center, right? And keep them in alignment with the goal, right, that they have for themselves and their lives. Yeah, I love that.
And it was so easy for me to open up, because I'm sure something that you really need to be able to do is like see the entirety of your client, right? And I think when we first started working together, I was very wary, like I was a very closed off person, and like there were certain things that I wouldn't bring to the sessions. But like as the weeks went on, I kept testing the waters, and like when I was met with, oh, she's not judging me, like there's nothing wrong with me saying these things, like I brought more and more things. So the fact that you're able to see me for who I am is because you created that environment in the first place for me to do that, because I naturally don't do that. So yeah, something else that you're very good at.
Thank you. Thank you. But I also want to, I always bring it back to the value of the client, right? And I humbly do what I do, because it's like in each session, like it's like we're working on something for sure, but at the end of the day, it's the work that you do for yourself in between sessions, right? When we have like assignments afterwards, and you're literally doing the things that are in alignment with what we're talking about and working through, it's like, okay, then it brings you up to the next level, right? So the consciousness, like we make it aware of what's actually happening. And then when you're conscious of that, you go and you do reflection and you do exercises and you work through, and then it's like literally leveling up for the next session, which allows us to continue to build like step by step to get there. Yeah. So I love and I honor, what the client brings to the session, because it's like not just about the conversation, but it's about the steps in between, that is so powerful too. So you being able to do that work in between allows us to be able to focus on growth, right? And the next obstacle that we need to kind of overcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's even the assignments or the things that I need to work on between sessions, like don't even feel like work, because I feel like the session with you is I'm so present that it enables me to become aware of whatever it is that needs to come to that level of consciousness. And then once it's there, it's there. So the things I need to work on between is like, it becomes effortless. It's not even it's not like when you're in school and you had to do like your homework for the next lesson.
Yeah.
It literally feels so seamless because of that level of presence, like within the sessions.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's like the clarity, right, that you're able to have. It's like it makes the work so easy. Without the clarity, it's so difficult to do the work, right? And without the drive, that we are able to kind of like bring about within the session, it's like, oh man, it makes that effortless, like you said. It's like it's an easier way to be able to process things later, because we've done the hard work, like in the session. So yeah, I agree. So what do you feel like are some of the more specific things, or maybe if you can recall one of the major things that we were able to work on together, which brought you to the aha moment, right? Which is like, being able to seek more clearly and helping it to shift you in a big way.
Mm. I'd say one of the biggest examples and probably the most recent for me was around my finances, so around money mindset in general. We've done a lot of work around this together, and one of my recent kind of realizations was it's always about a shift of perspective, and it was something that was really weighing me down, like in terms of finances, in terms of just something that I couldn't get my head around. And just in one conversation, I was able to see that whole situation from a completely different angle. It's like, no, this is here to test you or to work for you. And it's just seeing the beauty of something that can seem like a struggle initially. And that was one of our most recent conversations. But I remember as well just having other very big aha moments around my mindset with money, relating back to like my family and how I was brought up, and just relabeling certain words I was using so that I could see money as just something just completely different, that was it's a tool that's freeing, essentially. And that to me was invaluable, because I think maybe as with a lot of people, like money can really have this kind of like hold on you. It's a very emotional topic, and yeah, so many things came out of our conversations together around money. And it honestly, like now I feel so free, like around money. And it's ultimately nothing's changed, like nothing in terms of my circumstances or anything has changed. You could argue it has, maybe, but it's purely about how I look at it, and it's so freeing. So yeah, that comes to mind definitely as one big one.
Yeah, yeah. And I think sometimes, yeah, like it depends on the session, right? But like bringing these things that kind of like help you to at least understand yourself and like where you are coming from in the first place, what has created the story in your mind behind whatever it is, right? And sometimes these stories are not actually effective. They're like maybe old conditioning that we had from the past that is now no longer serving us. And we don't realize that we're autopiloting, with that same story, but like really bringing that to the light to say, okay, what is the story? Where did it come from? And how can I shift that? Like, what are the new stories that I need to be, kind of like telling myself and focusing on in this process? And yeah, I think that's something that you were able to move through like effortlessly through our work together. So tell me, like, what are the outcomes now with some of the things that we worked on? Like, how are you different? How has it changed your life?
Wow. How am I different is such a big question, because I would say like completely different. So when we first started working together, I was this like closed off shell. It's like everything was a threat to me. Anyone was kind of coming to me to kind of hurt me, or just, it was very, yeah, I just felt very closed off. And now like what I am is like this kind of almost like this opened up, yeah, shell with the, what is it, an oyster, I think, or something like that, where you find like the pearl inside. So like the pearl is like my essence, like my truest version of me, which is like what you always bring me back to. Okay. And so what comes as a result of that is like I feel free. I feel free to be me. So freedom is like one of the biggest things that I think I've gained. It's almost like untangible. It's freedom, it's faith as well, because you always have such a beautiful way of reminding me of my own faith in the greater powers of this universe. And that to me is something that is very, very important to me and very ingrained in me. So yeah, freedom, faith, and just openness. I think just openness to be me and to trust and to see that, you know what, when you open your heart, you're you're good. Like life is really good when you open up that shell.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, it's that floating feeling that I never used to feel before we were working together. So yeah, it's difficult to put into words. It's really is all just it's feeling. It's beautiful.
That's great. So would you say that you feel more empowered, more true to your authentic self?
Absolutely, yeah. More myself, more authentically me, more empowered, because it's not just a kind of like motivational speech kind of empowered. It's like you bring me back to my essence. It's like, no, remind me of who I am. And that in itself is empowering. It's not just like you can do this or you are this. It's you prove to me through things that I've said in the past actually about myself
Mhm,
that
mhm.
that is who I am. And that is the most empowering thing, because it's like hearing through your words something that I've said in the past about myself.
Right, right. And I also think it's the things that you've done, right? Or things that you're doing now. It's like, let's really focus on what it is that is, actually the truth of who you are based on, your actions, your words, like everything that you're doing now, but also things you've done in the past. And if you can really just be reminded of that, and if you can like focus on those things, it does empower you because you realize at the end of the day, you've been there all along. That empowered person has been there all along. It's just like being able to see yourself more clearly, you know? And I really kind of like relate my work to really a mirror, when it comes to that. It's just like, okay, let's actually look back at the mirror and see who should be true for yourself. But in all of the work that we're doing, it's like the things that you're bringing to the session allow me to get there, right? But without you being vulnerable and without you kind of sharing and being open to doing that, we wouldn't be able to really move forward as much as we've had, right? So I just want to acknowledge and appreciate that vulnerability in you and allowing me to create the safe space for you, right? So that you are feeling comfortable to share. So thank you for allowing me to do that. Honestly, that's how we can really work together well. That's how we've been able to achieve some of these things.
Mm. I mean, now I say that vulnerability is like an open door to connection, and I didn't used to see it that way. I thought the vulnerability meant weakness. I thought that it meant, oh, you're opening yourself up so that someone can attack you. But the space that you've created for me has shown like the complete opposite. It's like the more you open up, the more you open yourself up to being loved and to receive that love and to love yourself as well, and connect with that person that you're having a conversation with. So yeah, it's really beautiful.
That's amazing. Okay, so then I guess one of the last questions I have is when it comes to my specific style of coaching and the approach that I use specifically, how do you feel like, I mean, if you could put it into words or if you could put it into the feelings that you have about it, what would you say in working with me specifically, as opposed to a therapist or maybe some of the other people you've worked with in the past?
Hmm. I'd say, so I'll compare it to therapy first of all, because I have used therapy in the past. It's much less daunting, is the word that I'd use, to turn up to a conversation and a session with you. And I think the reason being is you take me into the future, rather, obviously sometimes we dig into the past and I understand, but it's saying, okay, no, what do you want to do from here on? It's like, we're talking here now, but let's look towards the future. And I think that is always, there's more hope there, there's more brightness, and it's much less scary than, for me at least, therapy, which is a lot of digging in the past and not necessarily, okay, what do you want to do moving forward? So there's that aspect. And then, yeah, to describe what you bring to the space is just like the most beautiful light energy. You're so present. Like whenever I'm speaking, like I feel like you're listening to like every single word I'm saying, and that is so rare. It's like your full attention is on me. There's nothing else happening. So you feel so seen, so listened to, and that really, for me at least, builds the trust. It's like, yeah, no, she's really listening to me. Because again, you'll say something that I've said in the past, and that just again proves that you've really, really listened. And it's the level of safety. It's just, there is not 1 ounce of judgment for anything I've ever said. And I always leave feeling so much lighter. And that's because of the energy you bring. It's like I might come in a bit of a rut or feeling really heavy, but like every single time I'm just like, I'm floating, I'm flying, because you've taken something out of me that needed to come out. And that is just the best feeling. It's like, yeah, thank you, Rosey.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so happy to hear you feel that way about my style of coaching. And of course, working together with you has been an amazing experience and such a blessing, honestly, especially to be able to relate with you in this way, to be able to, have this time together. It's been like really, really powerful for both of us, I feel like. But then also I wanted to see, would you then recommend coaching to other people, or what would you say, to someone who is thinking about, having a coaching session or kind of embarking on a journey of coaching?
Is this even a question? Is this even a question? I mean, to me, like, coaching is such an essential part of who I am now. I would never, ever not have coaching in my life. It's just, to me, it's knowing that I can just turn up and focus on me for an hour or however long the conversation is. You're so present, there's nothing going on. And you're kind of forced to work through something that's coming up for you. And then at the end you leave and you're like, oh, I have the answer. And that to me has just been such a huge part of my growth. I would not be the person I am today without coaching, like literally. So there's no way I would ever, I mean, some people do end coaching relationships, but for me, I'm so committed to my own growth that I don't see a time in my life where I would not have coaching.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing these things. And I guess, coming and being able to spend time together, speaking today, I really appreciate it. So do you have any thoughts that you want to share, to wrap up and, allow other people to know anything else that you maybe haven't shared, or is there anything else that comes to mind? Any last words?
Last words would be, if there's any doubt in your mind that coaching is not something that you want to explore, I would say remove those doubts, because yeah, it's like, I can't even put into words like what it does. It's so safe, it's so life-changing, quite literally. And it's not, with the right person, it's not scary. It really isn't. But you've got to pick the right person. And I'd say the way to do that, and maybe these will be my final words, is just trust what you're feeling, trust your gut, because your gut never lies. And if something feels right or if something feels off, there's a reason for that. So just trust those feelings. And if the person lights up something in you, or you just have this trust, go for it, because it's a true blessing. It really is.
I love
And
that.
with you, you've changed my life, quite literally, Rosey. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time together today. I love so much that you have so many valuable insights regarding coaching in itself, but also just being open and sharing your own experience has been a true blessing. Thank you so much. And I know that it'll help other people to at least understand better a little bit about, what it's like, to have coaching in the first place, but also what it would be like to work with me as well. So thank you again. I appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosey.